You can't be serious. I never imagined that it's gonna be actually this bad. Ghost of Yōtei review. This title alone tells me more than I need to know. This title tells me more than Raffaello. And if you're American, then Raffaello is a thing that you eat, and it tells you more than 1,000 words. That's a lot of words per byte, by the way. And this title tells way more than 1,000 words. Ghost of Yōtei is probably the worst game ever made, because this video is by SkillUp. And one thing that all of these shill channels have in common is the fact when a game is bad, that the title is gonna be as generic as possible. And when it gets this bad that you can literally only call it review, you know that this is absolutely atrocious. Are we going to see any gameplay? Do you actually think we're going to see any gameplay from the game, or just riding around a plane that has nothing in it? Is this going to be it? Is that how it's going to be? Because man, this is going to be bad. This is going to be bad. Is this review going to beat Mr. Matty's fabled review of, well, the game's bad, but you should still buy it anyway. The story's only 5 hours long, but no one wants a long story. The game is overly simplistic, but I don't like hard games. Is this gonna be that? Is this the final boss of shilling things on YouTube? Let's find out. I'm excited.
In 2020, I basically awarded Ghost of Tsushima my personal game of the year. And I say basically because the game sat a little awkwardly at the top of my list. What I said back then was that when it comes to a game of the year list, I put a big premium on innovation, and
Oh, there's a little bit of rice field action going on.
Ghost of Tsushima wasn't really innovative.
No, that's the wrong game.
Per se. Instead, it was an incredibly refined version of the open world formula that we'd been playing throughout most of the 2010s, and so it felt more iterative than breakthrough. That didn't stop it from being a phenomenal game, mind you. In fact, it was so good that one of the other things I said in that game of the
Okay, we're starting off the Ghost of Yōtei review by saying how good Ghost of Tsushima is. What the hell is this?
The video is that I think this particular spin on the open world formula, this map marker driven AAA Ubisoft inspired cinematic open world action game, Ghost of Tsushima essentially perfected that formula to the point where
Ubisoft inspired? I'm sorry, when the hell did Ubisoft inspire open world anything?
Where there was nowhere else for it to go. On that basis, I was really hopeful that developers would begin to reimagine the foundations of this genre so they could push new frontiers and deliver us something we hadn't experienced before, rather than another version of a game we've played dozens of times now. Ghost of Yōtei is exactly what I had pleaded for Sucker Punch to not make.
Wait. Not to defend Ghost of Yōtei, but I try to be as fair as possible and as impartial as possible. If you're gonna tell me you didn't like Ghost of Yōtei because it's more of what Ghost of Tsushima is, that is not really valid criticism. I'm pretty sure not a single person was like, oh, I hope Ghost of Yōtei is completely different from Ghost of Tsushima. I hope they have nothing in common at all. No one was like that. So if you're disliking Ghost of Yōtei, that's fine. But if you're disliking Ghost of Yōtei because it's more of Ghost of Tsushima, you know, the thing that everyone actually wanted, that's pretty bad criticism. That is in fact very much a valid criticism.
It's Ghost of Tsushima again, but with better visuals and a way worse story. We'll do the full review, don't worry, but that really is the strapline. If you've played Ghost of Tsushima...
Did he not like the story's conclusion about raising a children with the, you know, patent The Last of Us, I'm gonna be a dad now, lesbian moment? Well, now.
You have already played this. With how central storytelling is in these sorts of open world games, I came away from Yōtei feeling not a lot of love for it, despite it being a pretty phenomenal game in terms of its visuals, technical polish, and combat. If that sounds like a pretty searing indictment of the game, I don't really mean it to be. I'm not here all indignant being like, this is outrageous. It's more just like, I don't really feel anything.
This actually looks kind of bad graphically, I'm not gonna lie. The graphical fidelity kind of looks shit, or is that literally just me?
Anything towards this. All of its breathtaking beauty and remarkable technical polish and its brilliant combat is overshadowed by how familiar all of this.
And I want to say again, yes, this field of flowers looks good, but a field of flowers in a game like this is the same as saying, oh, the skybox in a space game looks good. I absolutely hate the mouth-breathing level of stupidity people are like, oh, the game's good because it's a space game and and the skybox looks good. Bro, you can literally almost never make a bad looking skybox for a space game. The same is with an open green field of flowers. It's really hard to make it look bad because it's a field which is beautiful by itself, and it's a bunch of flowers which are beautiful and add aesthetic value to anything. So, yeah, it's hard to make this not look good, but I implore people to look at this from the perspective of gameplay. It's how much of the game is actually just flowery fields filled with literally nothing that the only that they serve the only purpose to pad out the runtime of the game because you need to spend time going through them. And they serve literally no other purpose at all. A lot, yes.
Feels and how thoroughly disappointing its story is. You might be like, dude, what the hell? You love Ghost of Tsushima. If this is so similar, why are you dunking on it so hard? Well, I guess it's two things. Number one, people change and their tastes change and evolve, especially when there's so many of these sorts of games and they all feel so familiar. You do get tired of them. But also, you know, I made this specific point 5 years ago. I said it was time for this formula to evolve, but it hasn't evolved one iota here in Yōtei. But more than that, I really cannot overstate just how important writing is for me at this point. If you want me to saddle up for a familiar gameplay experience, then I'll do it, but the story better be really good. I look at the recent Silent Hill F, which had fairly basic visuals and some janky puzzles, and its combat was not good, but man, what an experience. The way its story and its characters immediately seared themselves.
I mean, most people think that Silent Hill F is a completely atrocious, stupid fucking story that kind of glamorizes the idea that you should not get married and whatnot. Even though there are arguments against it because the good ending is that, you know, none of this technically happens and kind of embraces traditionality. No, even though that's kind of harder to imagine that that's supposed to be it, considering everything that happens. But yeah, not a good example of good story writing in general.
Into my memory. My first playthrough of Silent Hill F was 9 hours long, and I had thoughts and feelings and emotions throughout nearly every minute of it. I played Yōtei for 40 hours, and I definitely never had to think at any point. We'll talk more about the quote-unquote puzzles later on. And in terms of feeling, the most pervasive one was boredom, and that's the truth. The point I made 5 years ago about the need for new frontiers, I made that point because if you enjoy these sorts of open world games, then Ghost of Tsushima didn't have any flaws that needed to be fixed in a sequel. The only place Sucker Punch could go was innovation, and there's just none of it here. And imagine where Sucker Punch could have taken Yōtei. What if it had adopted the curiosity-driven approach of something like Hell Is Us? What if they had a script as strong as Claire Obscure? What if it had adopted the decision-making and
what if the game was good? That's effectively what he's saying in the most Luke way possible. You gotta give props to channels like this, though. They are gonna say that the game's not that great, but they're not gonna use any of the words that actually drive it home. They're not gonna say any definitive, really statements. They're just gonna say, what if the story was like that of a good game? What if the gameplay was that of a good game? What if this was that of a good game? And, you know, it's like, technically that's very low criticism because you're just saying, it could have been better. But, I mean, when you think about it, everything could have been better. Can't you just, you know, call a spade and call the game shit? Is that really that hard?
Consequence of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. What if they'd made time a precious resource like the altars? What if it had been co-op like modern Far Cry games? What if it had offered a really interesting and compelling loot game like the Ghost of Tsushima Legends mode did? I'm not saying that Yōtei should have had all of these things or even any of these specific things, but just something, right? Like something to hang its hat on other than being an absurdly good looking game that still has best in class combat for this type of game. Simon Cardy of IGN penned an op-ed recently that was titled, "I'm bored of every PlayStation game telling the same story." And I don't agree with that headline because I think it's pretty easily disproven, but I do agree with the vibe that I'm guessing possessed him when he sat down to write that. Ghost of Yōtei is defined by the familiar feeling it evokes. The one where even though you're experiencing something new, your brain is telling you that you have seen this before. It's generic revenge story, it's lifeless characters, it's unchanged open world structure, and its familiar combat. Ghost of Yōtei cements Ghost of Tsushima as the zenith of this genre. And unless studios are willing to remix things a hell of a lot more than this, then it's going to be all downhill from here.
Ugh, disgusting. The people saying, oh no, she's beautiful. Do you not have eyes or something?
Path of Yōtei is the story of Atsu, a girl whose parents are brutally murdered before her eyes by a group of people who seem to enjoy making children suffer for some reason. It's one of the things that never sat right with me about Yōtei's storytelling. Its paper-thin narrative regularly reverting to cruelty towards children as a means of upping the dramatic stakes. I'm aware that violence and cruelty toward children exist in real life, but if you're going to invoke them as a narrative...
The irony of that is obviously the fact that leftists don't agree with that way of thinking. Children are in no way different than adults. You know where that leads. That's why being a leftist is the same as being mentally deficient, obviously. But, I mean, they don't even agree with this. So why the hell are they using it in such a poor way? Nobody... Well, they're trying to imitate what actual real people feel, and they're like, oh, violence to children is bad. Other normal people say, I guess we're gonna imitate it now because reasons. Yes, that's pretty much how this happens.
Tool. In your lighthearted, MA15+ rated AAA open world action adventure game, you need to be pretty careful and clever with how you wield it. Sucker Punch wield that tool as a clumsy cudgel, smashing us over the head repeatedly as they drip-feed reveals of Atsu's family's final moments, painting vivid pictures of monstrous cruelty, only to then spend the remainder of the game's runtime trying to humanize these villains, handing them convenient excuses for their actions so that we're supposed to feel conflicted or something. This is where Tarantino got it right when he penned his opus and one of my top 3 favorite films of all time, Kill Bill. That was the story of a woman murdered by a gang of killers, her family ripped from her in an act of such irredeemable evil that there was no way that any of those people could come back from that. And Tarantino knew that, so he didn't try. When Beatrix came face to face with O-Ren Ishii, O-Ren didn't offer up some sub-story about how her dad didn't love her or how she was just following orders or some shit. She knew what was about to happen and they just got on with it. Bud even says, that woman deserves her revenge and we deserve to die. And yeah, when you murder a pregnant woman during her wedding rehearsal, then that tale of bloody revenge is going to have only one happy ending. But rather than embrace the cathartic revenge fantasy that might have worked when your inciting event is based on such malevolent cruelty, Sucker Punch want to turn it into an instructive fable about revenge being bad. And yeah, we know it is. So if you're going to tell us again, then you got to set it up right. When The Last of Us Part 2 dwelt on revenge being bad, it at least had a really compelling starting point. Joel did what he did, not out of mindless cruelty.
I like how he's just like, the start was compelling.
Or out of revenge, but out of a deep instinctual urge to protect his adopted child. You can understand why a man might do that. And so exploring the ripple effects of that act and the decision to choose to stay locked in a cycle of vengeance when that's the starting point, that's inherently...
All I'm hearing is men smart, women dumb, by the way, okay? Oh, you take the... Bruh, the argument for Ellie not being autistic garbage, by the way, if you did not know, is like this. Joel took her right to choose away. She was knocked unconscious. She didn't know she was dying. Those people already took the choice away from her, and now she's just fucking blaming Joel? What the fucking logic is this? I mean, well, it's the logic you would expect from mouth breathers. It is what it is.
Very interesting, even if you don't agree with all the ways that Part 2 did that exploration. But if Last of Us Part 1 ended with Joel gleefully murdering 2 parents in front of their screaming children, and then murdering both of those children, one by pinning them to a burning tree with a katana through the shoulder, I'm gonna think to myself, Ellie, Joel got what he deserved, and you should go home. If it sounds like I'm dwelling too much on this, it's because Yōtei has nothing else other than this one-dimensional, poorly constructed revenge story. The historical backdrop of the Mongol invasion is obviously gone, but there's no other broader historical event to take its place. Similarly, there's no exploration of the samurai code and what it means to abandon one's honor, because Atsu isn't a samurai. But there's nothing to replace that either. Atsu is a faceless mercenary who wanders the land as an almost
Is that a bald woman?
ephemeral presence.
I think that's a bald woman.
She doesn't represent a place since she was displaced from her home at an early age. She doesn't represent a moment in time because she's untethered from societal structures or class roles. She doesn't represent a specific military or martial art tradition since she adopts whatever tools are at hand. Her only quest is against the Yōtei 6, and her only arc is a moral one.
Well, it's not even a moral one, but he's accidentally touching what no woke anything is ever willing to touch, which is objectively morality and the complexities of morality. And here he's pointing out that this is classical leftist woke narrative driven writing. And when I say narrative driven writing, I'm using that term lightly, obviously. But this is their narrative, okay? Since she's a woman, she cannot be wrong. So there's not going to be any moral dilemmas. There's not going to be any questioning, is this right or wrong? There's not going to be any of that because she is a strong, independent woman and she cannot be wrong just because she is a strong, independent woman, obviously. She already is perfect and her goals are already obviously right because anything she does is by definition inherently correct. And this is why no one likes fucking woke Hollywood shows and whatnot, because all the stories they ever do pretty much kind of boil down to, well, exactly this: a pre-built narrative, always being right, no hard questions, no moral dilemmas, and you know, just something very obviously happening and having an obvious outcome. It's pathetic and stupid. It's just so pathetic.
Revenge worth it if it means throwing everything else away? The answer will shock you. Shorn of the historical, cultural, and thematic adornments which often define these samurai epics, Ghost of Yōtei feels hollow and fungible. Like you could set the same story in the medieval English countryside, and you wouldn't need to change a whole lot. You wouldn't need to sub in a Viking invasion, or an English king and his court, or a meddlesome clergy, or a burgeoning foreign commercial interest, or anything. You wouldn't need to do any of that Control-C, Control-V, because there's nothing to Control-C. That isn't to say that every feudal Japan era epic needs to tick all of these boxes, but it is notable that Yōtei ticks like none of them, and the flimsy revenge tale isn't strong enough to carry Yōtei over the line on its own. Ghost of Tsushima's biggest weakness was its storytelling. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't doing too much either. Still, between the Mongol invasion and Jin's revenge story, and his personal struggle with his code and his honor, and with a smattering of worthwhile side stories here and there, it ultimately came together well enough, but it was still easily the weakest part of that experience. Earlier I said that Sucker Punch had essentially perfected this style of open world game and that there was nowhere else for it to go, but I never said anything about the story. That was far from perfect in Ghost of Tsushima, and there were many places that it could have gone here in Yōtei. If Sucker Punch had no plans to meaningfully expand the gameplay side of this experience, then priority number 1, 2, and 3 should have been story. Instead, here what we get is a massive downgrade, and had this been stronger, it might have helped you forget that you've already seen and experienced almost all of what Ghost of Yōtei has to offer. This is typically the point in the review where
Oh, come on. No bamboo cutting minigame? No bamboo cutting minigame.
Built out 1,000 words on Yōtei's open world design, but the truth is, I really don't have anything new to say about it that I haven't already said of the first game. There are some aesthetic differences, though that's not quite the right word. It's more accurate to say that the veneer of certain activities has been altered or replaced. The substance remains the same. Chasing foxes is a good example. You can still do that here, but now you can also chase wolves who lead you to places where other wolves have been captured, deepening your connection to the wolf that watches over you during your journey.
We're getting this one.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the fact that her spirit animal is a wolf because she is unknown. Something like that. I completely don't understand the idea. Like, she's alone, but she has connections. Well, what the it's so stupid. It's so stupid.
I'm out of here.
Instead of composing haiku, Atsu now paints using the DualSense's touchpad as a canvas. So you get what I'm saying, right? These things are both technically new.
Ah, okay, we didn't get the bamboo minigame, but we have the cooking minigame. Ah, yes. Yeah.
They don't feel new. They fit within the existing open world design framework without really expanding or improving it. Outside of that, it's all the same stuff. Climbing cliff sides to unlock shrines, bamboo strikes, clearing out enemy camps. And
the bamboo minigame. Oh, the hot tub.
Kid off to take a bath and do some deep thinking.
Mount Yōtei. The she-mountain.
Should this be our... Yeah, I think this is gonna be our... whatchamacallit. I'm making a screenshot, boys. Relax. Don't worry about it. Give me a second. We're just doing a screenshot. This is gonna be our thumbnail. You can thank me later or not. Also, by the way, like the video right now or pipe it up on a mobile device. It takes less than a second. I greatly appreciate. Thank you for everyone who does it. I really do, because it means a lot and it helps out the channel. So thank you. And if you think that, well, the stuff that we talk about is important, then definitely like the video right now or hype it up, because that really helps. More people are gonna 100% see this if you just press that like button. And the power is in your hands. And thank you for everyone who does that. Thank you.
I used to greet her every morning.
No
Now, to
one
be clear,
cares.
Yōtei does what Yubi don't, which is meter out all this stuff in perfect measure and serve it up to you so organically that it never feels like busy work, more like pleasant detours. You'll chart a course toward a main objective when suddenly a little birdie appears beckoning you to follow, or you'll spot a traveler being shaken down, or you'll collide with an occupied village. Yōtei's world design is essentially a number of valleys or fields or basins, and that means you can strike out in any direction at any time, and when you do that, you're sure to quickly, very quickly, find something to do. The shortness of these activities and how easy it is to stumble upon them, it all makes them feel quite...
So you're just saying this is better than Assassin's Creed Shadows, where there's a bunch of question marks on the map, but when you go to those question marks, there's actually nothing to do. Like, there's a drawing school, but there's nothing to do there. There's no mini games. There's no nothing. Oh, man. Good.
snackable. It's like Sushi Train, where the little plates of food come to you and you can be like, yeah, I'll have some of that, or nah, I'm good. And because it's so effortless, so well portioned, and so tasty, it's a great way to eat. Moderation and convenience are the secret sources of Sucker Punch's open world design. All of this remains as good here in Yōtei as it did in Tsushima, but it's no better. And I've already experienced most of this before, and I didn't really enjoy experiencing it again, or at least I enjoyed it way less. One thing I did enjoy more were the weapon training side quests. These are each tied to a region, and you go and find some weapons master who's living in hiding. They'll be reluctant to train you at first, but eventually you'll get them on side. Learning the dual katana was perhaps the best one, because Sucker Punch had managed to gamify the 1980s training montage in a way that no other video game had been able to do. The way the difficulty of the task was calibrated to denote the strength of my left arm, and how I could see and feel myself getting steadily better as the sensei trained me was a really great moment. Later quests would involve me solving problems throughout the region, with those quests giving me access to new techniques and weapon upgrades.
Half of the video is done, and yes, the game literally so far has boiled down to riding through. When you have a good game, you want to show the fucking action, okay? Even Diablo fucking 4 wants to show you the action. But here, what are we getting? We're getting bamboo minigame the best, okay? And open fields the worst. And nothing's happening. Like, the combat is not actually that bad, obviously, in this game. It's not. It's not the best. You know, they kind of fucked up a couple of things about it. But the combat's not that bad, so why are you not showing any of the combat? Because it's fucking boring. The moment that we saw combat, it was just hit, then that's it. And then the next one, okay?
It felt very fitting for a journey of this type. Less impressive were Sucker Punch's attempts at puzzles. One of the regions sees you chasing a member of the Yōtei 6 known as the Kitsune, and they're meant to be a tricksy fox reliant on subterfuge and misdirection. The way that Sucker Punch tries to sell you on this is that the Kitsune has left puzzles all throughout the region, but they're so mind-numbingly basic that I found myself infuriated by them. We're talking
Are we talking about Dragon Age Veilguard level puzzles where there's an obvious place you place something in, and then there's next to it in a completely empty field only one thing that you can interact with it? And those are all of the puzzles because the Vogue devs are afraid that their audience, that their targeted audience is not going to be able to do anything more basic than drooling?
Cocomelon level brain teasers here. We're putting any and all thought into them is to give them far too much credit. I bristle at these sorts of puzzles because it's like, is this a game for children or adults? Like, you have to pick one. If I'm watching scenes of children being gruesomely murdered, then I guess you want me to take this thing seriously. But if you're asking me to solve puzzles that your average preschooler would breeze through, Then what are we doing here? I know it sounds like a small gripe blown out of proportion, but Yōtei and Ghost of Tsushima as well are experiences that are designed in such a way that you never really have to think. It's that sushi train design of the open world coming to you rather than you going to it. So it's notable that the one time Ghost of Yōtei does ask you to think, it basically assumes that you can't. In closing out this block on world design, I want to be really clear about why I sound so down on it. It's not that it's bad, it's great in fact, and had I been experiencing all of this for the first time, I'm sure I would have loved this because I loved it in Tsushima, but it's the same, and I actually would have been okay with that had the story delivered. You probably know this about me already if you've watched enough of my reviews, but I don't view games as a sum of their pros and cons. If a game can get something
I do. I think everyone honestly does.
Really, really right, then I'm on board and I focus on that thing, and my brain kind of forgives or ignores a lot of what sits around that thing. Silent Hill F is again the perfect example, but if there's nothing like that, nothing that really hooks me and that can soak up my attention, then my complaints become much more generalized because I have more time to think about all the reasons I'm not enjoying something.
Wait, is this AI generated? Well, AI created, because this is the same as this guy. They look like twins. Are they supposed to be twins?
Yōtei's world design is no better or worse than Tsushima's, but without having a satisfying, rewarding plot to pull me through that world, I looked around and thought to myself, I've done all this before, and I'm not really in the mood to do it again.
Wait, is that a woman? Oh no, it's just a very feminine man. Yeah, that checks out.
The foundations of combat in Ghost of Yōtei are just as strong as they were in Ghost of Tsushima, and I'd argue that they're even stronger here. The biggest difference is that Atsu is now able to wield up to 5 weapons, seamlessly switching between them to counter enemy weaknesses. The term rock, paper, scissors gets thrown around a lot. I think you'll struggle to find a review of Yōtei that doesn't use that term, but that's because it's 100% accurate. Dual katanas beat polearms beat kusurigama beats shields, Odachi beats brutes, and katanas beat, well, katanas. These new weapons do open up space for unique combos and maneuvers that make the already strong combat framework better. You can drive a polearm into an opponent's chest to skewer them before seamlessly switching to a katana for a charged, unsheathing attack.
That was not seamless at all! What the fuck?
Chest to skewer them before seamlessly switching to a katana for
The katana's just also appear seamlessly. Oh, god damn it, I love this, seamlessly switching.
Charged, unsheathing attack. There's also quickfire weapons like kunai and smoke bombs and a pistol, so you can weave those into your flow such that you're attacking both near and far, clashing steel before suddenly vanishing into a cloud of smoke.
It's just click, 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 and win.
Cool as hell, both in terms of how it looks and how it feels. We talk a lot about the Sony movie game and we think that's all about cutscenes. There's another dimension to that that's often overlooked: cinematic action. The way that combat is framed in games like Horizon and God of War and Yōtei looks incredible, but there's no sacrificing playability to achieve those results. This is not style over substance, it's style and substance. It isn't as deep or demanding as more niche offerings, but it's just the right mix of accessibility versus complexity. And while I wasn't invested in Yōtei's story and its open world wasn't doing anything I hadn't experienced before, combat encounters were always something I look forward to, and even now I'd happily boot up Yōtei again just to feel the weight of the blade in Atsu's hand.
I'm sorry, but that didn't look that interesting. It's also because obviously we're jaded because the game is just so fucking trash. But it doesn't, it just, this is why the sum matters. If this happens in Ghost of Tsushima, everyone's fucking pogging. But here it's just not good. Because everything about this game is stupid. Everything just feels wrong, and this game died before the release because of all the decisions, all the woke pandering, all the political messaging, to everything. Good riddance. Well, anyway, that was Skill Up. What a fucking review. Damn impressive. Anyway, bye.